Hello, everybody. Lawrence Fleming here. Well, it looks like it's a nice warm day, but it's not. I think we got down to 34 this morning. Tomorrow is going to be 31 and 32 the next day. I think we've got 3 days, and we're still, I don't know, we're about a month away, a little less than Easter. Don't plant in Georgia until after Easter. I got some pictures. I don't know if I'll put them on this video, but I got some pictures of some of the trees starting to bud. And we're seeing leaves on some of the trees starting to green up. I always tell you in the wintertime, you can't imagine what's inside some of these trees. And you look into the woods and you see, I didn't know there was a house or a lake or whatever, because when summer's going and the leaves are on all the trees, you can't see 10 foot into the forest. Can't see the forest for the trees, as they say. Anyhow, well, things are starting to happen. That's good. Don't be frightened. We were told many times by Jesus not to be frightened when he told us about the end times in Matthew 24 and 25. And it's all over the place. It's not just there. Don't be afraid. And it depends on where you put your trust, your heart. We're going to look at some of that. But these banks they've been propped up for some time, and they've almost collapsed before, and the government stepped in and said, here's lots of money. Well, they've kind of done that again, but they didn't give them a lot. They didn't come back in and take over everything. And when they completely collapse, the government's responsible for the FDIC money, federally insured. Of course, the government doesn't have any money, so they have to print more. I wonder if the next payment to the Ukraine war effort will be less because of our banks. You know, if China really wanted to dig it in, China used to have a lot of our money, and it may be that's what's causing some of this. Our government is playing the Wizard of Oz. Ignore the man behind the curtain, you know. So in any case, if you put all your money and your hope in what's going on here, what am I doing? I'm wiping the pollen off of my monitor so I can see. Just sitting here, just leaving it out for a little while I was reading the Bible. It's covering my screen. The rain knocked it down for a little while, but until these trees are in full bloom for a month, we're going to have pollen on everything. It's that time of year. So anyhow, some people are running to the bank and taking their money out. I would certainly take enough out to be able to live on for a little while. But the government insures it, so you will eventually get it back, theoretically. If a whole bunch of them collapse, the government can't even print that much money. If it's a full banking collapse like in 1929, they can't print enough money to cover that. Not in our current state. They might even lower the interest rate a point just to kind of help the banks out. It's deliberate, of course. They have it all planned. They know what they're doing. The government knows very well what they're doing. What they say has nothing to do with what they're doing. They will answer to God, don't worry. Most of them will be at the white judgment seat, because I can't believe Christians would be part of this, knowingly anyway. Okay, I wanted to read a couple of verses here. To remind you about all this. Let's go to Matthew 6:19. Do not store up for yourselves treasures on earth, where moths and vermin destroy, and where thieves break in and steal. But store up for yourselves treasures in heaven, where moss and vermin do not destroy. I'm assuming we don't have moss and vermin in heaven, and where thieves do not break in and steal. For where your treasure is, there your heart will be also. I appreciate those that have contributed to my Starlink fund. I won't mention you by name because I don't want to steal your reward in heaven. Some people like to get their self-noticed here on earth. I won't do that for you. By not mentioning you, God will reward you. And I think I'm a quarter of the way on the fundraiser. Like I said before, I went ahead and ordered it just because I knew it would take time. And it is. My shipping date is between the 16th and the 22nd, something like that. So I can monitor it. I can pull up the app and look at it. So we're looking at, end of the month at any point before I can do anything about it. So I'm going to move from here to another site end of this week. And then after 5 days, I'll be coming back here again. So I'm going to kind of be staying for the next month anyway, in the same basic area. So I could use that device to be shipped sooner than later. Okay, let's turn to Revelation 6, verse 5. And when he'd opened the third seal, I heard the third beast say, "Come and see." And I beheld, and lo, a black horse, and he that sat on him had a pair of balances in his hand, like the scales, the lady who measures everything out on the courthouses. And I heard in the voice in the midst of the four beasts say, "A measure of wheat for a penny, and 3 measures of barley for a penny." I'm reading out of the NIV, I believe this is. A denarius, essentially, a day's wage for a measure of wheat. And a measure of wheat is enough wheat to make a loaf of bread. Okay. Measures of barley for a penny, and see that thou not hurt the oil of the wine. That is a telltale sign that this is an orchestrated increase. Oil comes out of the ground, but it's, was there. But wine, you've got to have grapes. You've got to grow grapes to make wine. That is a harvest. So this isn't caused by like the famines or things like that we might be dealing with in this time. People are doing this. They're causing it, but they're protecting the oil and the wine. And of course, by protecting it, it's available for Gog to come down with the hook in his mouth and get. We don't know when the Magog War is. It could happen anytime during the 7-year, quote, tribulation time frame. I had somebody really chew me out about not calling it the tribulation time frame. I will give somebody $1,000 if you can prove to me in the Bible where it says all 7 years are the tribulation. Big T. You won't find it. In this life, we will have tribulation, but the 7 years is not called it. The second half, after the abomination, you will see the wrath of God and the great tribulation. But that's halfway through. The first half doesn't have a name. It's not in there. I've studied it for a long time. So most people call it the tribulation time frame because it's tradition. We just lost our actor that played that role, a Jewish actor that sang that song. If I were a rich man, Anyhow, time marches on. So don't worry about your money. Some people are going in and taking their money out of the bank. I would certainly have on hand enough for your monthly expenses, certainly. But how are you going to get it? How are you going to pay your bills? Most of us, myself included, I pay my bills online. So I've got to have money in an online account to do that. So I'm hoping that the banks don't collapse. And our loving liberal government, who loves people so much, said that if they don't vote to extend the ceiling and they run out of money, the first thing they're going to turn off is Social Security. That's what they've said, our loving government. I'm sure they're making Satan proud, because no one but Satan would run a government the way that this is being run right now. I'm not worried. When it gets so bad that Christians are going to be starving to death, we're going to get out of here. But I told you to be prepping. You should have enough food for a month or so, because we don't know the timing. The wind is blowing. And it's cold wind. If this were fall, I'd say winter is just around the corner. But it's not. It's springtime, almost. We're less than a month to Easter. And I've got more pollen lining up on my screen again. Just sitting here, just talking to you. I'm watching the pollen built up. Of course, you know, the monitor has got a static charge to it, and it's coming down and it's falling on it. But I'm surprised I'm not sneezing any more than I have been. And it's on the top of my computer too. After I get this done, I'm going to take it up to a spot where there's a little bit of signal, and I'm just going to enjoy the scenery while I try to upload this. If it were raining, I'd have to go into town, because sometimes when it's raining, I can't get enough cell signal. But with it clear, it bounces off the atmosphere better, and it comes over here, and I can get like maybe 3 bars. That allows me to upload a video. Now, on my laptop, I can upload faster using a hotspot than I can on my phone direct. I don't know why. But I did find one thing out on my phone, and this is a trick. If you're using a tower separate than or different from the provider that you're using, sometimes you can't get in at 5G because they give priority to their own customers. And depending on the time of day and when everybody's on, their own customers may fill up the bandwidth and you not get any. Most people will be on 5G. Drop your signal down to 2G. And in my phone, I finally found out where it was at. In my old phone, the BIOS was different. It was in a different spot. And I've been looking for like 4 months. I couldn't find anything on it, and I just happened on it. It's probably been there the whole time and just nobody talked about it. But there's a setting to go into the T-Mobile setting under network services, and you can turn on and off 2G or 5G. So I turn off the 5G, it goes over to 2G, and it goes back to uploading. Not quite as fast, but 80% of what it was when it was on 5G. And then I leave it off for about 4 to 5 percentage points, and I put 5G back on. It establishes a new connection, and I'm good for a little while. And it goes back to 5G until it gets to the end, and then it starts to throttle. And then I drop it off. So I've learned this trick, but it still takes me, an hour or 2 to upload a video. And I can't do anything else. If I'm on the internet doing anything else, it interrupts that connection, and it ends up, I may get 300K per second, not doing anything, but just letting it upload. And if I start doing other things, it might drop down to 30K per second, 10% or 10-fold difference. So anyhow, that's a trick with these things, is to fully throttling. All right. Don't worry, but be prepping. Have some cash on hand. You may need it to go eat, to go to the grocery store or whatever, but you're going to need to leave some money where you can get to it if you pay online. If you don't pay online, or if you've already paid all your bills, you can keep it with you, but then you're going to have a bank to put it back in. I bank with an online bank. I'm not going to give you the name, but I bank with an online bank, so I don't have a place, a teller where I can go to put it in. So I'm pretty much all digital as much as I can be. But I do have cash on me. I'm not crazy, but I'm not going to pull all my money out. If God doesn't want us to suffer too much, he'll get us out of here. And like I've said before, we're here until the last soul is saved. So get out there and start beating the bushes and start saving souls. If we get the last soul out of here, we're out of here. That's all we're waiting for. God knows, he's got everybody's name in the book. He knows who everybody is, where they're at, what their mental state is, whether they're ready to accept Christ or not. And we're ready. He doesn't force anybody, but he's better than your fortune teller. And you go to them and they say, well, you're going to meet a tall, dark stranger. Yeah. What good is that if you don't know the personality you have to deal with? Because there's that tall, dark stranger from God or from the devil. Only God knows that. So that's why you trust him. All right. I don't know how long I've been talking. I've been a little bit shorter lately because I'm going to have to start setting a timer. And when I upload from the laptop, I'm not limited to Rumble, but I am limited going to Rumble from my phone. My phone has some of my other video little snippets that I normally tack onto the end, and I haven't transferred them over. I just may go ahead and make one smaller video. I think I can do a 12-minute video and upload from my phone to Rumble. I may go ahead and tack on some of the footage I've got. I did recently some of it, but if you don't watch till the end, you don't see my stuff. I'm like Marvel. I put something at the end most of the time. I haven't lately because it's been kind of convoluted having to try to support Rumble in this. When I get Starlink, I'll be able to do a lot better job. The messages are the same. It's just the technology is limited. And God knows that. And he approved me to buy the Starlink. I told him, don't let me buy it if you don't want me to buy it. So he's approved it. So we're going to have a little while. But how much is a little while? I don't know. I can't see us getting past this year, looking at the way the world is slowly collapsing. Seeing this financial instability, they're doing it on purpose to put us over onto the digital dollar. I bet you it's going to completely collapse at some point, maybe not now, but at some point it's going to completely collapse. And they're going to go in and say, okay, well, we've created the digital dollar and we're going to, anybody who's got a bank account, we're going to give you your money back via digital dollar. That's how the insurance is going to cover this, the FDIC. You watch them. They're not going to print the money. They're just going to turn on their computer and start putting in zeros. One followed by as many zeros as they need until everybody gets paid. They may even throw in some extra money. They were giving money away like crazy when the Big C was out. I got to still watch this because I'm on YouTube with this. When the Big C was out, they were giving out money. They're going to be doing it again. But they're using their artificial employment numbers right now to make things look good, so they don't want to hurt that yet. But things are definitely going to happen before the next election. They're not going to deal with another election. And they weren't worried about the Republicans taking the House. It would have been nice if they could have, but they didn't care. Their agenda is already in the works. The Republicans can't stop the banks from collapsing. As long as the federal government keeps spending money, it's going to keep doing it. Okay. Don't worry about it, but have food and water, all the essentials you need to survive on hand someplace where you can get to it. If you're like me, mine's in my storage unit. And I have some extra in my car. I bring tubs when I'm camping. I've got more stuff in there than I need, but it's there. So I'll be fine. I might have to eat ramen noodles for a week, which isn't healthy, but if we're getting out of here, who cares? Now I've got canned goods and other stuff in storage. I've got plenty of food, and I've got those freeze-dried buckets that you can buy. I've had them for years. I've had them for 15 years, but I bought them on sale, and they're good for 50 years. I didn't figure I'd need it any longer than that anyway. But the food in those buckets is not that tasty. If you're hungry, anything's tasty. I've got cases of the camping food that you just, rip the top off and pour in hot water, and you've got lasagna, or you've got beef stew, or whatever it is. It's not too bad. And the new MREs that come out for the military, they're not bad either. And I got a couple of cases of just plain ramen noodles. I like those anyway. And you can put meat and stuff in these things. You don't have to eat them straight, just noodles. You can chop up some meat and put in there. Pre-cook it so it's ready to go, and just keep it in a little tub and just add meat. You can put, turkey or beef or chicken in these and add them. You can also chop up. I've got some green onions that I can chop up and put in there. You don't have to eat things just right out of the package. These are things you learn when you're surviving. Okay, my screen is getting covered again, so let me go ahead and wrap this up. We're watching the world collapse. God is not making this happen. God is not sending anyone to hell. I'm seeing people online say that. How can God punish people by sending them to hell? He's not sending one person to hell. No. Well, Satan, maybe. But Satan has an option too. Satan can accept Christ too. Do you know that? He could. So I guess he's not sending anyone to hell because God is consistent. I had to think that one through. God is consistent. He's always been the same. The people that are going to hell are saying, God, we don't want to listen to you. We don't want anything you have to offer. We don't want your son. Leave us alone. Putting his hands off. And this is what's happening to the world. We're watching it fail at man's rule. Man has no idea how to run this world without God. Till we meet in the clouds, God bless.